So what's really happening in Gaza is that there are extremists within the Israel government who want to accelerate the process of the end of the world, where Israel will face the world. And if you think about it, the entire idea of this ritual sacrifice is to unite the Israeli population. And what's extremely disturbing and horrifying about it is that this works.
As the Israel-Iran conflict escalates, we take a closer look at Israel's nuclear program and its chilling last resort doctrine known as the Samson option. Here's the full story.
And my argument to you is that this is intentional. They want the world to hate them. Because by doing this, they create the ultimate taboo, right? We find this disgusting and contemptuous, so the entire world will unite against Israel. But guess what? That's what their religion wants. In the extreme form of Jewish eschatology, or the religion, they believe that at the end of the world, Israel will fight the entire world and God will help Israel triumph in the end.
Israel's nuclear ambiguity. Israel is widely believed to have nuclear weapons, though it's never officially confirmed them. It is the only country in West Asia thought to possess such weapons. But how did it all begin?
I want to wish also a 250th happy birthday to the American Army. The men and women of the armed services of the United States have protected freedom for 2.5 centuries.
It contains some pretty damning information about the Israeli Secret Service, the most Here's ABC's John Mark. The sensational claim of the book involves this bloody Marine barracks bombing. The book's...
We would not have a free world without you. Thank you on behalf of free peoples everywhere. Today, Israel is defending freedom in the Middle East and beyond. We're doing so against a tyrannical and radical Iranian regime that wants to build atomic bombs to destroy us and wants to build ballistic missiles, including intercontinental ballistic missile, to be able to threaten anyone and everywhere in the world.
And it's almost as though the Israelis want us to see it and want us to hate them. Right? You can see all over the world, popular opinion is turning against Israel. You have these popular protests all around the world protesting what is happening in Palestine. If they really want to do this, right, there are actually much more effective ways of doing this. For example, you could just poison their water. Or you could poison the air so that everyone in Gaza gets a fast cancer, right? We have the technology to do this. So Israel could do it this secretly and no one would talk about it. And in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, the population of Gaza would all be gone. It would be a very secret, right? Instead, they choose to do this in front of the world.
By defending ourselves, we're also defending others. We're defending our Arab neighbors, our Arab friends in peace. We're defending Europe. We're helping defend also the United States, which helps us all the time.
The book says Israeli agents kept vital information from U.S. Marines that might have saved the lives of 241 Americans killed here. Israeli government sources deny this account, but according to the book, an Israeli informant saw a Mercedes truck being fitted with secret panels for explosives. Israeli troops were told to be on the lookout for the truck, but the book says the Israelis intentionally gave the Americans only a vague warning, not mentioning the kind or size of the vehicle.
In our defense, this is an important mission. Right now, the Iranian regime is bombing our civilian neighborhoods while we are targeting the terrorists. Now, this is not new. They've tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They bombed American embassies.
The book says Israeli intelligence was willing to let the terrorists succeed to protect their sources and out of contempt for U.S. intelligence. It says agents withheld information on U.S. hostages for similar reasons.
They killed 241 Marines in Beirut. They killed and injured thousands of Americans with their IEDs in Iraq and Afghanistan. They burn the American flag. They chant endlessly, death to America.
So the question for us is, why is it that this happens? Why do the Aztecs do it? Why do the Phoenicians do it? Why do the Romans do it? And why is it today the Israelis do it in Gaza? And remember, okay, what the Israelis are doing is quite horrific because it is really this sort of sacrifice. Why? Because 47%, almost half of the population of Gaza is under 18 years old. So the majority of people who are getting killed are in fact children. What is most striking or blatant about what's happening in Gaza is that we can all see it for ourselves.
Our enemy is your enemy. And by doing what we're doing, we're dealing with something that will threaten all of us sooner or later. Our victory will be your victory.
In Toronto today, the author was under a court-ordered gag not to discuss the book or case.
See, there's two restrictions. There's one restriction that I can't talk about what I learned or have done in the Mossad, and the other restriction is I cannot talk about anything that's in the book.
Israeli officials confirmed that Viktor Ostrovsky worked for the Mossad in the 1980s. Alarmed by the contents of the book, they got it temporarily blocked in Canada and the United States.
It's the position of the Israeli government that the information contained in the book could very well lead to the identification of employees of the Mossad and could jeopardize their lives.
But the book's introduction says it does not name active agents and gives only initials. It does say that more than 24 senior Israeli agents routinely gather intelligence in the United States.
So do not take this as gospel. Do not believe this is the truth. The entire point of this class is to help you develop the theories and the ideas to better understand the world. These are tools. Okay, this is not truth. These are tools. All right. So the first question I have for you is, what is happening in Israel? Right now, as you know, Israel is besieging, bombarding Gaza. You might have seen the videos on social media. It is disturbing. It is terrible what is happening. The word that is happening, the word that we use for what is happening in Gaza is this word. You are not allowed to say this word on YouTube, but that is the intention.
I knew it wasn't gonna hold. Everybody knew it was gonna fall apart. We didn't know when, but we knew it was a short-lived alliance. And it was short-lived, in my opinion, for two reasons. All right? The first one is that you cannot ever watch someone treat everyone terribly and think that that doesn't mean they'll do the same thing to you under the right conditions. You know what I mean? And I should be clear here. I'm not talking about someone who has a bad day, someone who's in a bad way at the moment. We're all human. People have bad days. I'm talking about someone who, by and large, treats people terribly, but is nice to you. It's only for right now. As soon as you're in the position the other people are in, they'll treat you the same way. And if you don't think so, you're a fool.
What I will argue, though, is that the truth is far more disturbing than this.
And I would like to use the rest of my time to say how appalled I am that people are bringing up the Holocaust. Do not use other genocides to describe this one. I have been.
We're not going to tolerate that.
This one that I personally do not see. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible situation.
what is really happening in Gaza is a ritual sacrifice. And this happens quite often in human history. If you go back and you look at the real history of humanity, this happens quite often. Some of the most famous examples are the Aztecs. We've dug up temples of the Aztecs, and inside the temples are thousands and thousands of human skulls. So before they went to war, they practiced human sacrifice. They would commit mass murder of their enemies in public. So the Aztecs were really famous for this.
Now, I have not in any way ever said that God has commanded or could command genocide. That's an unsympathetic misrepresentation of what I said.
What I was dealing with are these narratives in the Hebrew Bible concerning God's commands to Israel to go into the land of Canaan, or the modern-day land of Palestine, and to drive out the Canaanite clans or tribes that were inhabiting the land. And in the Hebrew Bible, God commands Israelites to go in there and to slaughter any of the Canaanites that oppose them, whether man, woman, or child. They are to be exterminated. Now, anybody who takes the Bible to be historical has got to wrestle with these different facts. The question is, how could a God who is all loving, all good, and all holy issue such commands? And why would he do so? Is there some kind of internal inconsistency?
The Phoenicians, specifically the Carthaginians. We will discuss them later this semester, but the Phoenicians were also famous for a particular type of sacrifice, which is child sacrifice. The Romans wrote histories insulting the Phoenicians for practicing this sort of sacrifice. But the Romans themselves practiced human sacrifice. What they would do is that after every major war, they would capture all the major leaders, all their enemies, and they would parade their enemies through the streets of Rome. This is something called a triumph. At the end of the triumph, they would gather enemies at the temple of Jupiter. Jupiter is their god. And then they would strangle to death their enemies. That's sacrifice. That's human sacrifice. They didn't call it that, okay? And they sort of disguised it, but we know for a fact that they did do this.
Let's talk about political parties just for a second. Let me name three for you and tell me which one is the worst abuser of doublespeak. The Communist Party, the Democratic Party, or the Republican Party in history?
I would say I'd give them all three. They're right in there by the nature of politics. I would say that the Communist Party would be leading the other two simply because under the time of Stalin and others, language was used to justify, mass murder of millions of people, exactly the same as the Nazis did.
The majority of Americans today have an unfavorable view of Israel. When you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. You know, we've got Altman and AI, we got Zuckerberg, we got Sergey Brin. It's us. Amelia, we got to get our digital sneakers on.
I want you to reflect on how unbelievable that really is. He's saying, hey, look, I have a list of Jews who are the masters of the universe. They control everything. They can control public opinion. And then he says, we have them. We, the Jews, have them. They're us.
This is a rule, the rules of perception. If they're black, then it's a game. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and you should never speak about it. Well, I've been to Hollywood. I don't want y'all to get mad at me. I'm just telling you. I've been to Hollywood. This was just what I saw. It's a lot of Jews. Like a lot. But that didn't mean anything. My first Netflix special, what did I say? I said, I don't want a sneaker deal, because the minute I say something that makes those people mad, they're going to take my sneakers away. And the whole crowd was like, ha, 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 ha. And I ain't see Kanye walking around L.A. barefoot with his chain out. This guy lost $1.5 billion in a day. It shouldn't be this scary to talk about anything. I love you to death. And thank you for your support. I hope they don't take anything away from me. Whoever they are.